Currently, I'm looking at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Now, I'm going to take a quick look at the market, make some very quick assessments, see what it is that we're doing. Can I take a trade? Is there a trade to be taken? What am I looking at? Now, right now, with the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, I'm looking at the trend, the TBL. The TBL is green. Now, this means that I'm looking for only long trades at this point. TBL is green. Now, currently, what is the market doing? Well, we have some big green tetragram bars. Now, this has confirmed the uptrend. We've got the trend up. So now the next thing we want to do is wait for some kind of a pullback. Now, two things are going to happen in order to get this pullback. We're going to get a small green tetragram bar, or we're going to get a small gray tetragram bar. So we're going to wait and see what happens. So the next candle opens and closes, and it produces a small gray tetragram bar. Now, it's a small gray tetragram bar because price dropped below the TBS and the switch. The switch has turned down. We don't have an arrow quite yet over top of it. But in order for the tetragram bar to have turned gray, we need the switch and the TBL to not be in agreement, or we need the switch and the TBL to be in agreement, but two of the other indicators, the TBS and the TBM, to not be in agreement. The TBM is still underneath. The market still wants to move up and away from it. So it's the switch and the TBS that has turned. So we've got a little bit of a TBS up top. So again, now what we have to wait for at this point is either a small green tetragram bar or a big green tetragram bar. If I get a small green one, I could potentially be taking an aggressive long trade. If I get a big green one, I could, again, potentially be taking a conservative long trade. So next thing to do is just wait for the next candle to open and close. So the next candle has opened and has closed, and it closed up. It's a white candle. It is a bullish candle. We have a switch underneath. So the switch is turned up. The TBS is still above the price. But this green tetragram bar is showing us that we've got 3 out of the 4 indicators moving in our favor. So the switch, the TBM, and the trend, they're all up. Now, this is an aggressive entry. We can choose to take this. It's a little bit riskier because it is an aggressive entry. But if the trade works out, we're going to risk less on the trade because the entry is going to be closer to our TBM, which is where the stop loss is going to be. And we could potentially get an easier time getting a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1 out of this. So I'm going to decide to take this trade. This is an aggressive long trade. So I'm going to place an entry order and my stop loss. My entry order goes at the close of this candle. My stop loss underneath the TBM dot of that signal candle, and a 1-to-1 profit target is placed. And at this point, the next stage of this is to manage the trade. I've got my take profit. I've got my stop loss. We're in the trade. And now the only thing I have left to do is manage the trade until I either get stopped out with this stop loss or I get taken out at a profit. Now the next candle opens and it almost gets to our take profit. Now, what I really I'm focusing on this is not whether the candle moves up or down so much, is where the TBM dot is. Now, the TBM dot has moved a little bit upwards, which means that I'm going to be able to move my stop loss. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to move my stop loss a little bit closer to the new TBM dot. Now, what's important is that I don't put it on the dot. I want to give the market a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of room to breathe. So I'm going to move it just below the dot. Now, how far below the dot is going to be up to you. You're going to want it maybe a little bit closer, or you're going to want it quite a bit further away. The distance that I've got on the chart here is what I'm comfortable with. This pip amount is going to be different on different time frames. On a 5-minute time frame, it might be 1 pip. On a 1 hour time frame, that space might be closer to 5 pips. On a 4 hour, that space might be closer to 10 or 15 pips. All right, so the next thing now, again, is to wait for the next candle to open and then close again. So the next candle has opened and it's moved a little bit, but what I'm noticing, again, the TBM dot has also moved. So the TBM dot is quite a bit higher. So at this point, I get an opportunity to move my stop loss. So I'm moving my stop loss underneath the new TBM dot. Again, not right on the dot, but a little bit below the dot. Now, by looking at this, I can tell that I've reduced the risk on this trade by almost half already. So if I get stopped out, instead of losing the full 2% that I've risked, I'll only lose 1%. And if I lose 1% on this trade, winning 2% on the next trade makes back what I've lost and then some. So again, the next thing now is just to wait and see what happens. Are we going to get taken out in profit on this one? If not, let's just keep managing the trade. Well, that candle spiked up and it took us out in profit. So this was a very fast trade. We took an aggressive entry, which means that the entry was closer to where our stop loss level was, which also means that the take profit was much easier, much more easily hit because it also was closer. We took an aggressive trade. It worked out really well. We got hit with our take profit on the second candle. It was a nice, clean trade, very easy read, and it worked out really well.